He told me I had the heart of a woman when I was still playing with dolls, said God gave me a special light, and that's why I had to keep our connection a secret. I was 10. He was my mama's boyfriend, and what he took from me, I'm still trying to get back. My name's Ruth Ellen Brooks. I'm 73 years old, born in the west side of Atlanta, back when folks still left their doors unlocked and neighbors knew your business before you did. Mama raised me on her own. Daddy walked out when I was 3. It was just me, her, and the Lord. I was the quiet one, didn't cause trouble. Stayed in the background until he came along. Clarence, Mama's new friend. Smilin' big, always dressed sharp, always callin' me his little Rose. At first, I thought he was a blessing. But some blessings come with teeth. If you're still here, I need you to do one thing for me before we dive deeper. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Hit that like if this story already touched your heart. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Every new subscriber gives me a little more strength to speak these truths out loud. Because silence protects predators. And stories like mine, they shine light in dark corners. It started with a stare. Not the kind a grown man gives a child out of concern or kindness, but the kind that lingers, that studies, that claims. I was 10. Mama had just started dating Clarence, said he was different from the rest. He had a good job, wore a suit to church, always opened her car door. At first, I liked him. He brought groceries, fixed the squeaky door in our kitchen, even bought me a brand new pink sweater I hadn't asked for. This for my special girl, he said, smiling wide. Mama blushed when he said things like that. I just smiled back, confused but polite, like Mama taught me. The first time he stared at me that way, it was after dinner. Mama had stepped outside to talk to Miss Delia about a church potluck. I was washing dishes. Sleeves rolled up, humming a hymn we'd sung that morning. He leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. "You got a woman's hands," he said. I froze, didn't know what to say, didn't even know what that meant. "Pretty little fingers," he added, chuckling soft. Then he walked off like nothing happened. I didn't tell Mama, because I didn't know what to say. And maybe a part of me thought I was the one being strange. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his stare. Not his. Smile, not the groceries, just the way his eyes had touched me. Like I was something other than a little girl. Clarence didn't leave after that first dinner. He stayed. First a few nights a week, then all weekend. By summer, he had his own drawer in Mama's dresser, full of socks and aftershave that made the whole room smell like cheap cinnamon. Mama walked lighter with him around. She'd sing while she cooked, wear her Sunday dresses on a Tuesday, even started calling him baby in front of me. One night, I asked if he was going to live with us for good. She smiled. "He might, baby. God don't send good men like Clarence every day." I didn't say nothing, because if God sent him, why did I feel like hiding every time he looked at me? But Mama didn't see that part. She saw the flowers he brought on Wednesdays, the money he slipped in her purse without bragging, the way he bowed his head real slow when the pastor prayed. He's a God-fearing man, Ruth, and good to us both. You be sweet to him. Okay? So I was. I said, "Yes, sir," and "Thank you." I hugged him when he opened his arms. I let him pat my head like a puppy and call me little lady. But inside, something twisted every time he walked into a room, because kindness don't cancel bad intentions. And even at 10, I could feel how close he stood, how long his hand stayed on my back, how he always watched me when I bent down to pick something up. I wanted to scream, but Mama said he was our blessing, so I learned to smile while holding my breath. It was a Thursday. Mama was working late at the diner, covering a shift for Miss Lottie, who had a sick baby at home. That left me and Clarence alone in the house. He said he'd fix dinner, made boxed macaroni and burnt pork chops. I sat at the table, barely touching my plate, staring at the clock. "You ain't eatin', Ruthie," he said, leaning back in Mama's chair. "You on a diet?" "No, sir, I'm just not hungry." "Girl your age should eat more. Keep them hips growing right." I froze. My fork slipped out of my hand and clattered on the plate. He smiled. "Relax, I'm just playing. You always so jumpy?" I tried to laugh, soft and fake. After dinner, he asked me to help clean up. I rinsed the dishes while he dried, our arms too close in that small kitchen. "You know, Ruth," he said, voice low, "you got a light in you, like a real special light. Men can see that." I didn't respond. He moved closer. "That's why you gotta be careful with boys. They'll want that light, but they won't protect it like I would." My stomach turned. "You trust me, don't you?" I nodded, but only because my body didn't know what else to do. Then he reached up and brushed a piece of hair behind my ear. "There, you look just like your mama when she was young. Same eyes, same lips." I pulled away and mumbled, "I'm tired." "Course you are," he said, smirking. "Growing girls need their rest." I ran to my room and locked the door, cried into my pillow till I couldn't breathe. And all I kept thinking was, Mama can't be late again, not ever. After that night, I couldn't look him in the eye. Every time Clarence walked in a room, my stomach knotted so tight I thought I might throw up. So I figured, maybe I should. The first time I faked being sick, it was a Sunday. Mama was getting dressed for church, humming her favorite hymn, and Clarence was already downstairs ironing his slacks. I held my stomach and whimpered loud enough for her to hear. She rushed in. "You okay, baby?" "My belly hurts." "Since when?" "Last night." She pressed her hand to my forehead. "You do feel a little warm. Must be a bug going around." She looked worried. Not about me, but about missing church. Clarence poked his head in the door. "Ruthie not feeling good?" I couldn't even fake a smile, just nodded. "You want me to stay back with her?" he offered. "Oh no," Mama said quickly. "We'll go and come right back. Ruth'll be fine." That day was the first breath I'd taken in weeks. Just me, an empty house, and silence. No stares, no slick comments, no aftershave creeping through the hall. I curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I felt safe. The next time, I told Mama my throat was sore. Then it was girl troubles, then dizzy spells. Each lie came easier than the last, because pretending to be sick was better than being touched by someone who made your skin crawl. But Clarence started catching on. "Girls always sick," he muttered one night, not bothering to whisper. "Just a delicate season," Mama said, laughing it off. But I saw his face, and I knew I couldn't keep this up forever, because men like Clarence, they don't like to be denied. It was near the end of July. Hot, thick heat that clung to the walls. Mama had started working doubles at the diner, trying to save for new school clothes. I was home with Clarence most days now. No more faking sick. No more excuses. Just quiet hours filled with dread. One afternoon, I was changing. Out of my pajamas, the fan blowing weak in the corner, door closed, radio low. I had just pulled my dress over my head when I heard it, the doorknob, turning, slow. Before I could speak, he was inside. "Oops," he said, grinning like he dropped a spoon. "Didn't know you were dressing." I froze, my arms still tangled in my sleeves. He didn't leave, didn't turn around, just stood there, looking, like he had every right. "You growing up fast," he said, eyes heavy. "Real fast." I yanked the dress down and backed against the wall. "You shouldn't be in here." He stepped closer. Not rushing, slow, measured. "It's just a room. Nothing I ain't seen before." He reached out like he was going to brush lint off my shoulder. I slapped his hand away. Didn't even think, just did it. His face shifted, smile gone. You best be careful, Ruthie. That attitude'll cost you. Then he turned, walked out, and shut the door. Soft. Too soft. I stood there for 5 minutes, just shaken. My breath caught in my chest. Like a hiccup that wouldn't stop. I didn't cry this time. Didn't scream. Just slid down the wall and whispered over and over. It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. But deep down, I didn't believe myself. Because if it wasn't my fault, why did nobody stop him? Bible camp was supposed to be a break, a week away from Atlanta, from Mama's long shifts, from Clarence's stares. Just trees, bunk beds, hymns, and mosquito bites. Mama scraped together the fee and packed me off with a smile. Learn something holy, Ruth. Come back full of the Lord. I nodded and climbed on the bus, heart pounding. But not with joy, with hope. Hope that maybe I could breathe again. Sleep through the night. Be a child, even for a little while. Miss Geraldine ran the girls' cabin. She wasn't like the church ladies back home, didn't wear pearls or gossip behind paper fans. She wore denim skirts and sneakers, and her hugs felt like safety. She saw me sitting alone after devotions one night and came over slow. You okay, sugar? I hesitated, but something in her voice, soft, firm, motherly, cracked me open. Miss Geraldine, can I tell you something? She nodded. We sat on the steps of the chapel while the moon climbed high, and I told her, not everything, I couldn't, but enough. Enough for her eyes to go still. Enough for her to take my hand. Is this man still in your house? I nodded. She was quiet a long time. Then she said, You are not dirty, you are not crazy, and this is not your fault. Tears poured out of me like a broken faucet. But Mama loves him. She won't believe me. That don't matter, baby. I believe you, and we're gonna figure this out. She didn't call the police, didn't make a scene, but she sat with me every night after that, prayed with me, checked in. She gave me her phone number, written on the back of a Bible verse, The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. I kept that paper for years, because, even though nothing changed when I got home, I had one adult in this world who saw me, and that mattered, more than I could ever say. He was gone when I came home. No note, no goodbye, just his toothbrush missing and his favorite coffee mug still sitting in the sink. I walked through the house like I was in a dream, half expecting him to pop out and say, surprise. But he didn't, and I should have felt safe, relieved, free. But instead, I felt fear, because I didn't know why he left, or if he'd be back. That night, Mama came home late from the diner, hair in a scarf, apron stained, tired in her eyes. Well, she said, dropping her purse, I guess you got what you wanted. I blinked. What? Clarence, he's gone. I stayed quiet. You've been acting cold to him for weeks, she said, stepping into the kitchen, barely looking at him, running to your room. Now he's packed up and disappeared. I didn't say nothing. I wanted to shout. He touched me. He watched me. He came in my room when you were gone. But the words stuck. Mama poured herself a glass of sweet tea and stared out the window. You know he was good to us, Ruth. Brought food, paid the light bill that one month. He was a man trying to build something. She turned to me, eyes hard now. So tell me, what did you do to make him leave? I felt like someone sucked all the air out of the room. Nothing, Mama. I didn't do nothing. Well, he sure didn't leave for no reason. I walked to my room, shut the door, and cried into my pillow, just like I had before. But this time it wasn't because of what he did. It was because she didn't care. It had been a few weeks. Clarence was gone. The house was quiet. Mama stopped talking about him. But I could tell he still lived in her head. One Saturday afternoon, I was helping her clean out the closets. It was her idea. Fresh start, she said. Time to let go of what we don't need. We were working through her bedroom, tossing old scarves and magazines into bags for the church thrift sale. Then I saw it, folded neat, right at the back of the top shelf. His shirt, the blue one with tiny white dots, the one he wore the night he called me his little woman. I froze, held it in my hands like it was poison. Mama turned and saw me. "What's that?" I didn't answer. "Ruth," she said, stepping closer. "Why do you have that look on your face?" I shook my head, trying to hide the tears creeping in. "You kept his shirt?" "It's just a shirt," she snapped. I forgot. It was up there. I handed it to her, and she stared at it for a long time. He wasn't all bad, you know. That sentence hit like a slap. "Mama, he came in my room." She flinched, just barely. He looked at me like I was grown. Still, she said nothing, so I whispered. He touched my shoulder and said I had a woman's body. Her eyes filled with something, fear, shame, maybe denial, but not surprise. "You never told me that. Would you have listened?" Silence. Then she folded the shirt, soft, like she was laying down a baby, and placed it in the bottom drawer. Didn't toss it, didn't burn it, just kept it, quiet, like a memory she couldn't let go of, even if it was built on my pain. I was 17 by then, working part-time at a corner store, trying to save for trade school. Mama and I barely spoke about the past, but we lived with its echo in every silence. It was early spring, cool breeze, pollen in the air. I was waiting for the 41 bus on Edgewood Avenue, same as always. Earbuds. In, backpack on, minding my business. Then I saw him. Clarence. Walking across the street, brown paper bag in one hand, sunglasses on even though the sky was gray. My whole body froze. I looked down, prayed he wouldn't notice me. But he did. He stopped. "Ruth?" That voice still made my skin crawl. I turned slow. "Look at you," he said, smiling like we were old friends. "All grown now." "Don't talk to me," he chuckled. "Ain't no need to be cold. I just wanted to say hi." I backed up a step. He took one forward. "You always were sensitive. Your mama used to say you had too much imagination." I clenched my fists. "You don't get to say her name." His face changed, just a flicker. Then the smile came back. "You know what your problem is, Ruthie?" he said low, stepping closer. "You still think somebody owes you something." I raised my voice. "You owe me my childhood." People started to turn. A man near the bench looked up from his newspaper. Clarence stepped back. "You really gonna make a scene? You made a scene every time you walked into my room." He turned then. Didn't say goodbye, just walked away, real fast, head down. And me? I sat on that bench shaken, but I didn't cry, because I stood my ground, because he saw that I wasn't a child anymore, because I had my voice back, and I used it. It was after I saw him at the bus stop that the memories started coming back harder, little flashes while folding laundry, short breaths when I heard footsteps behind me, nightmares that left me clutching my chest, wondering if I'd ever feel whole again. One night, I couldn't sleep, so I got up, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out a piece of lined notebook paper. I started writing a letter, not to Clarence, to Mama. "Dear Mama, I need you to hear this, not as your daughter, not as a girl who made mistakes, but as someone you were supposed to protect." The words poured out. Every moment I remembered, every time I bit my tongue, every time her silence cut deeper than his. Touch. I told her how scared I was, how I still flinched when men walked too close, how her refusing to believe me hurt worse than anything Clarence ever did. I told her I loved her, but I needed her to own what happened. I needed her to look me in the eye and say, "I'm sorry I didn't see. I'm sorry I left you alone." I finished the letter around 3 a.m., folded it slow, slipped it into an envelope, and wrote her name across the front in my neatest cursive. Mama. I carried it in my purse for weeks. Every Sunday, I thought about leaving it on her Bible. Every time we argued, I wanted to slide it across the table. But I never did, because part of me still didn't believe she'd read it. Or worse, she'd read it and feel nothing. Eventually, the paper wore thin from being handled so much. The ink faded, but I kept it, because sometimes the things we almost say still heal us. I was in my 30s by then, married, divorced, raising a son on my own. Life moved forward, but I stayed stuck in 10-year-old skin, stuck in whispers, stuck in shame that wasn't even mine to carry. A friend at work told me about this clinic, sliding scale therapy, just a few dollars a session. Said it helped her after her divorce. I didn't go for the trauma. At first, I just wanted help sleeping. But trauma don't stay hidden when the lights go out. Her name was Angela, young, soft-spoken, the kind of quiet that made you want to tell the truth. I started slow, talked about stress, work, bills. She nodded, took notes, asked questions that landed too close to wounds I didn't name. Then one day I said it. Not because I planned to, because it just slipped out. He used to watch me change. Angela looked up, didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just said, "Who's he, Ruth?" And I told her, Clarence, my mama's man, what he did, how I stayed quiet, how Mama made me apologize. Her pen stopped moving. She leaned forward. "You were a child, and he violated you. That's not your fault." That sentence shattered something in me. For the first time, I cried without hiding my face. Week after week, we unpacked it all. The shame, the silence, the rage I had stuffed into places even I forgot about. Angela helped me name what happened. Grooming, coercion, abuse. Words I never dared speak in a church pew, but now said without trembling. She didn't fix me, but she helped me stop feeling broken. And that was the beginning of freedom. My son's name is Malcolm. He was 12 when he asked me the question that cracked me wide open. We were sitting on the porch one evening, sharing a basket of fries from the corner store. Sky pink, streetlights flickering. It was one of those rare, quiet moments when everything felt almost safe. He looked at me, real serious, and said, "Mama, why don't you ever talk about when you were little?" I blinked. "What you mean, baby? You always say stuff like, back in my day, but you never tell stories, like fun ones, about when you were my age." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Guess I didn't have too many fun ones. He frowned. Was it bad? And just like that, my throat tightened. I looked at my son, this beautiful boy with eyes that searched for honesty, and realized I'd spent years protecting him from my past, but never telling him why I flinched when he left his door cracked open, why I jumped when a man shouted on the street, why I always hugged him just a little too long. I took a deep breath. "Some people weren't kind to me when I was little," I said. "They saw I was quiet and sweet, and they used that to hurt me." He nodded slowly. "Like bullies?" I paused. "Worse than bullies." He looked down, quiet. "Did anyone help you?" And that right there, that one question, shattered every wall I had built. Because no, nobody helped me. Not Mama, not the church, not the ones who saw and stayed silent. But I looked at Malcolm and said, "Not then. But I learned how to help myself later. And now I get to, help you." He leaned his head on my shoulder. "I'm glad you're my mama." And in that moment I knew. He would never carry my silence, only my strength. I hadn't seen Mama in over a decade. We spoke on the phone sometimes, holidays mostly, short calls, filled with surface words. "You eat today? How's Malcolm doing in school? Still working at that little store?" But we never talked about him, never mentioned the shirt, the room, the betrayal, until the day Malcolm graduated high school. He wanted her there, said she was still Grandma, and I couldn't argue with that. So I invited her. She came in a flowered dress and a stiff hug, smiled wide for the pictures, acted like nothing ever happened. But I was different now, and I couldn't carry her comfort on my back anymore. That night, after Malcolm went out with his friends, I made tea and asked Mama to sit. She hesitated, looked around the living room like she was searching for an excuse, then sat. I held her gaze. Mama, we never talked about Clarence. She stiffened. Ain't no reason to dig up dead bones. They still hurt. She looked away. You were always so dramatic, Ruth. He touched me. Her face changed, but not with shock, with shame. You were a child, I said, voice firm. I needed you. And you didn't believe me. Her eyes filled. I didn't know what to do, she whispered. I didn't want to believe it. But you did. You knew. And you chose him. She cried then. Real tears, not for him, for herself. I failed. You. I nodded. You did. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was truth. And saying it out loud felt like breathing for the first time. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, I'm sorry, Ruth. I should have burned that shirt the day he left. And I knew she meant it. Maybe too late for the past, but not too late for me. I meet them everywhere now. At the grocery store, at church, in waiting rooms, online, leaving comments under videos that sound a little too familiar. Girls. With quiet eyes and heavy shoulders. Women who learned how to smile without trusting. Who flinch when men speak soft. Who know exactly what you're special really means. They don't always tell me their story, but I see it in their hands, in the way they check exits when they sit down, in the silence they carry like luggage. And when they do speak, it comes out like a whisper wrapped in guilt. It happened to me too, and I say, I believe you. That's the first thing, because most of us grew up in houses where truth had to wear makeup, where we were told to be quiet for the sake of peace. I don't ask for details unless they offer. I don't tell them to forgive or forget or let God handle it. I just sit and hold space and say, you didn't imagine it. You didn't ask for it. You are not broken. I tell them that healing is not linear, that some days they'll feel strong and others they'll want to hide in bed. Both are holy. I tell them they don't owe their story to anyone. But if they choose to speak, I'll listen. Because I know what it's like to live in a world that silences little girls, to grow into a woman who still sees herself through the eyes of a predator. But I also know what it's like to survive, to name it, to heal out loud. And if my voice can be a light on their path, then every tear, every sleepless night, every unspoken prayer was worth it. There was a time I thought survival was the prize, that waking up every day, keeping quiet, pushing forward, meant I was winning. But I've learned something in these later years. Survival ain't the same as living. Survival is sleeping with one eye open. It's holding your breath around folks who should have protected you. It's carrying guilt in your bones for things you never chose. But living? Living is speaking your truth without trembling. It's laughing from your belly again. It's looking in the mirror and not seeing shame, but power. I'm 73 now. I plant tomatoes in my backyard. I dance in my kitchen to Sam Cooke records. I hug my grandbabies a little longer than most, and when people ask me how I'm doing, I smile and say, I'm living, baby, not just surviving, living. Because Clarence didn't get to keep my voice, because Mama's silence didn't get to define my worth, because what was done in the dark, I brought into the light. And now, I speak so other little girls don't have to whisper. I live so other women know it's possible. If you're still with me after all this, thank you. Thank you. For sitting with my story, for letting my voice fill your room, your ears, maybe even your heart. There are thousands of women like me whose stories never got told, who were told to hush, to pray harder, to smile sweeter. But we're speaking now, and every time you listen, you break the silence that held us captive for so long. So before you go, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Click like if this story moved you. It helps others find it too. And please, subscribe. Every person who joins gives power to the next voice, to the next Ruth, to her truth.